History of Nations Afghanistan. Afghanistan, a land where mountains touch the sky, where deserts stretch into silence, and where empires have risen and fallen for thousands of years. It is a crossroads of civilizations, a bridge between East and West, and a place where history has been written in stone, in poetry, and in the hearts of its people. Ancient beginnings. The story of Afghanistan begins long before nations or borders existed. Archaeologists have found stone tools in caves that tell us humans lived here 50,000 years ago. In fertile valleys, early farmers planted crops, raised animals, and traded with distant lands. By 3000 BCE, Bronze Age communities were connected to the great civilizations of Mesopotamia, Persia, and the Indus Valley. Afghanistan's location made it a meeting place of cultures, a passage for traders carrying silk, spices, and precious stones. The Persian Empire and Alexander the Great. In the 6th century BCE, the Persian king Cyrus the Great added these lands to his empire. For the Persians, Afghanistan was both a frontier and a jewel, rich in resources, a gateway to India. Then, in 330 BCE, came Alexander the Great. He marched his armies across the mountains, conquering Persia and claiming Afghanistan as his own. He built cities like Ai-Khanum and Alexandria of the Caucasus, leaving behind Greek art, architecture, and philosophy. But Alexander's dream was short-lived. After his death, Afghanistan became home to the Greco-Bactrian kingdom, where Greek statues stood beside Central Asian temples, and East and West blended in ways the world had never seen before. The Kushan Golden Age. By the first centuries of our era, a new power rose, the Kushan Empire. From their capitals at Bagram and Peshawar, they ruled a vast realm. The Kushans made Afghanistan a centerpiece of the Silk Road, linking Rome, Persia, India, and China. Merchants crossed the land with silk, ivory, and gold. But more than goods, they carried ideas, philosophies, religions, art. This was the age when Buddhism flourished. Monks built monasteries and carved the colossal Buddhas of Bamiyan into the cliffs. Afghan artists created a unique style that blended Greek realism with Indian spirituality. Afghanistan became a place of learning and pilgrimage, where travelers found both wealth and wisdom. From Sassanids to Islam for centuries, Afghanistan lay between powerful neighbors. The Sasanian Persians ruled parts of it, until nomadic invaders like the Hephthalites swept through. But the greatest change came in the 7th century, with the arrival of Islam. Arab armies brought the new faith, and slowly, Afghan tribes accepted it. Islam did not erase older traditions, instead, it blended with them. Afghan poets, mystics, and scholars began to flourish. Persian became the language of culture and literature. In the city of Balkh, a boy named Jalaluddin Rumi was born. He would later become one of the greatest poets the world has ever known, writing verses of love and unity that are still read today. Empires of knowledge and power. In the 10th century, the city of Ghazni became the heart of a great empire. Mahmud of Ghazni, a warrior and patron of the arts, filled his court with poets and scholars. Persian literature reached new heights, and science and philosophy thrived. Later, the Ghurid dynasty rose, extending Afghan influence into India. Their legacy helped shape the Great Delhi Sultanate, linking Afghanistan forever with the history of South Asia. Mongols, Timurids, and the blossoming of culture. But in the 13th century, destruction came once more. Genghis Khan's Mongols stormed across Afghanistan, burning cities and leaving devastation. Yet even this storm passed. By the 15th century, under the rule of Timur's descendants, Afghanistan entered a new golden age. In Herat, artists painted delicate miniatures, scholars studied the stars, architects raised magnificent mosques, and poets filled the night with verse. This was the Timurid Renaissance, a time when Afghan culture became a light for the entire Islamic world. Between empires. In the centuries that followed, Afghanistan stood between two mighty rivals, the Mughals of India and the Safavids of Persia. Kabul became a jewel of the Mughal dynasty. Babur, the empire's founder, loved Kabul deeply. He built gardens, wrote poetry, and wanted to be buried in its soil. And yet, through all the battles, Afghan tribes kept their independence, traditions, and honor codes. They recited poetry in village gatherings, sang songs of love and war, and told stories around the fire. Hospitality remained sacred, for to turn away a guest was to dishonor the household. Birth of the Afghan nation. The modern nation of Afghanistan was born in 1747, when Ahmad Shah Durrani united the tribes and built an empire. He is remembered as the father of the nation, not only for his victories but for giving Afghans a sense of unity. Under his rule, Afghan armies marched as far as Delhi, and Afghan culture blossomed with music, dance, and oral poetry. The rhythms of the rubab and the verses of Pashto poets echoed in courts and villages alike. But Afghanistan's story did not stop there. The 19th century would bring new challenges, as powerful empires looked upon this land with hungry eyes. And the 20th and 21st centuries would plunge Afghanistan into wars that continue to shape its destiny today. As the 19th century dawned, Afghanistan once again stood at the center of great struggles, this time between empires not of the East, but of the modern West. The Great Game. 19th century. To the south lay the British Empire in India, to the north the growing power of Tsarist Russia. Between them, Afghanistan, a fiercely independent land, where mountain passes could decide the fate of empires. The British sought to control Afghanistan, fearing Russia's advance. 3 times they marched their armies into the country. 3 times they were met with resistance. In the First Anglo-Afghan War, 1839–1842, British troops occupied Kabul. But Afghan tribes rose in revolt. In the snowy mountain passes, an entire British army was nearly wiped out. This defeat shocked the world. Again and again, the Afghans fought for their independence. Women, too, played a role. Legends tell of Malalai of Maiwand, a young woman who carried the Afghan flag into battle in 1880, inspiring the fighters to victory. To this day, she is remembered as a national heroine. For the Afghans, the 19th century was not just about war. It was also about preserving their identity, traditions, and culture against foreign influence. Families gathered for Atans, the national dance, spinning in circles to the beat of the drum. Carpet weaving, a tradition passed from mother to daughter, continued to produce designs that told stories of home, mountains, and memory. Independence and modernization. Early 20th century. In 1919, after the Third Anglo-Afghan War, King Amanullah Khan declared Afghanistan fully independent. His vision was bold: schools for girls and boys, modern laws, a parliament, and ties to Europe. Kabul saw its first modern university, and young Afghans studied abroad. But reforms clashed with tradition. Rural tribes resisted, and Amanullah was forced to abdicate. Still, seeds of change had been planted. Under King Zahir Shah, who ruled from 1933 to 1973, Afghanistan entered a long period of relative stability. Kabul became known as the Paris of Central Asia, yet beyond the cities, the old ways endured. In villages, life was still shaped by the seasons, the land, and the tribe. Weddings lasted for days, with music, dancing, and feasts of rice, lamb, and dried fruits. Storytelling by the fire passed wisdom from generation to generation. The Cold War and Soviet invasion, but peace did not last. In 1973, the monarchy fell. Soon after, a communist coup plunged Afghanistan into crisis. Then, in 1979, the Soviet Union invaded. For 10 years, Afghan fighters, the Mujahideen, resisted. They were shepherds, farmers, shopkeepers, and students who took up arms to defend their land. Villages were bombed, millions fled as refugees to Pakistan and Iran, and Afghan society was torn apart. Yet even in exile, Afghan culture survived. Refugee camps echoed with Pashto poetry, carpets were woven on makeshift looms, and children learned to read in crowded tents. In 1989, the Soviets withdrew. But the war had left deep scars. Afghanistan had become a nation of martyrs, widows, and orphans. Civil war and the rise of the Taliban in the early 1990s brought no peace. Mujahideen factions turned on each other, shelling Kabul and devastating the capital. Families fled, and ancient neighborhoods were reduced to rubble. Out of this chaos rose the Taliban. Promising security and order, they captured Kabul in 1996. Then came September 11, 2001. After the attacks in America, the world turned its eyes once again to Afghanistan, where al-Qaeda had found shelter. The United States and its allies invaded, overthrowing the Taliban. A new Afghan government was formed. Billions of dollars poured into the country. Schools and universities reopened, Kabul buzzed with change. Cafes and television stations opened. A new generation of young Afghans, especially in the cities, dreamed of a future with education, technology, and connection to the wider world. But outside the cities, war never ended. The Taliban regrouped in the countryside. Suicide attacks, corruption, and poverty kept peace out of reach. The return of the Taliban 2021 to today. In August 2021, as US and NATO troops withdrew, the Taliban advanced with breathtaking speed. Kabul fell without resistance. The images of helicopters over the US embassy recalled earlier empires that had tried, and failed, to control Afghanistan. Today, Afghanistan stands once again at a crossroads. The country is isolated from much of the world. And yet, Afghan culture endures. In homes, families still gather around steaming cups of green tea. In villages, farmers still plant wheat, almonds, and saffron. In weddings, people still perform the atan, turning in circles to the beat of the drum. And Afghan poets, young and old, still write verses of longing, exile, and hope. Closing narration. From the Buddhas of Bamiyan to the battlefields of Kandahar, from the gardens of Kabul to the refugee camps of Pakistan, Afghanistan's history is one of resilience. Empires have come and gone. Wars have scarred its mountains and cities. But through it all, the Afghan people, with their poetry, their music, their hospitality, and their unbroken spirit, continue to endure. Afghanistan's story is not only one of tragedy, but of survival, and of a nation still searching for peace. Don't miss the next episode of History of Nations on Dable Media. Follow and subscribe for more stories from our world.